She sat alone at the train station, clutching a letter that had never been opened. It was early morning, and the fog clung to the ground like a secret. The station was quiet, almost deserted, except for a few people waiting for the 6:45 train. On the edge of the platform sat a woman in her late 50s, her eyes scanning the tracks as if they might offer answers to questions she had been carrying for years. Her name was Mary. She was an English teacher who had dedicated her life to helping others find their voice. But today, she was here not as a teacher, but as someone who had lost something, and was finally ready to face it. 30 years ago, Mary had fallen in love with a man named Daniel. He was kind, intelligent, and had a laugh that made the world seem lighter. They were young and full of dreams. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Mary had received a scholarship to study English literature in London, while Daniel had to stay behind in their small hometown in Canada to care for his sick father. They promised to write. They promised to wait. And they did, for a while. Mary wrote letters every week, telling Daniel about the cobbled streets of London, her lectures, her dreams. And Daniel wrote back, every letter filled with hope, with stories of how he missed her and counted the days until they could be together again. But then, one day, the letters stopped. Mary waited. A week, 2 weeks, a month. Nothing came. She wrote again, and again, but there was no answer. Heartbroken, she told herself that Daniel had moved on. Maybe he had found someone else. Maybe he had changed his mind. After a year of silence, she stopped writing. She buried the pain, focused on her studies, and eventually returned to Canada to build a life without him. She became a teacher, inspiring students year after year, helping them fall in love with language the way she once had. But late at night, when the world was quiet and sleep refused to come, she would think of Daniel. She would remember the way he looked at her, the way he whispered, "Forever," on that last day at the train station. And she would wonder why. Then, one winter morning, while cleaning out the attic of her late mother's house, Mary found a box. Inside were dozens of unopened letters, all addressed to her, all from Daniel. Her heart pounded as she opened the first one. "My dearest Mary, I don't know why you haven't written back. I hope everything is okay. I miss you so much it hurts." Each letter told a story. Of love, of confusion, of heartbreak. And finally, in the last letter, Daniel wrote something that changed everything. "Your mother told me you didn't want to hear from me anymore. She said you had moved on. I didn't want to believe it, but after months of silence, I had to accept it. I will always love you, Mary. But I need to let you go." Mary's hands shook. Her eyes filled with tears. Her mother, trying to protect her future, had intercepted the letters, thinking she was doing the right thing. And now, it was too late. Or maybe, not entirely. She searched for him. At first with no luck. The address on the letters was old. His phone number no longer existed. But one of her former students helped her track him down online. Daniel was living in a small coastal town, just 3 hours away. He had never married. He owned a little bookstore by the sea. And so, Mary came to the train station that morning, holding a letter she had never opened, a symbol of all the years lost, and all the hope that still remained. As the train pulled in, her heart beat fast. What would she say? What could she say after all this time? She stepped onto the train, clutching the letter to her chest. 3 hours later, she stood in front of the little bookstore. The Wandering Page. The sign read. Her feet felt heavy, her voice caught in her throat. But then the door opened, and there he was. Older, grayer, but those eyes, still full of kindness. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. "I was wondering when you'd come." She smiled back, tears falling freely now. "I'm sorry it took me so long." They sat by the window in the bookstore cafe, sharing memories, laughter, and tears. They didn't talk about lost time. They talked about now, about the days ahead. And in that moment, Mary understood something she would later tell all her students. Sometimes, life teaches us more than any book ever could. Love doesn't always follow a straight path, and time doesn't erase true connection. But the most important lesson, whether you're learning English or learning how to live, is never to stop listening. Not just to others, but to your own heart. End of story. This story not only helps practice English listening but reminds us that love, regret, and redemption are feelings we all understand, no matter what language we speak.